This is Rabbi and Son, hot takes on news, pop culture, and religion, hosted by Rabbi Patrick and my son, Javon. Spiritual, irreverent, always fearless, produced by the wonderful scamps at Darshan Yeshiva. Javon, he's laughing when I said the word scamps.
Yeah, I was like, these things up there. I was like, oh.
Scamps. So how you doing today, Javon?
Fine.
He's doing fine. We're glad. One day he's going to say, spectacular or terrible. This person is There It Goes on Reddit, posting in the Judaism subreddit. And their question is, why do all Jewish dating apps suck? And are there any alternatives? So, Javon, what's your friends and everybody? How does everyone feel about dating apps? Are your friends into any of that? Or are they part of that? There's kind of a backlash, I think, too. So I don't know how your friends side on this stuff.
I think any of my friends are on dating apps. I think, they're in school and they're, that's how, they're figuring that out.
Because you were talking about one friend and you were like, oh, she's talking to this one guy, blah, blah, blah. Mm. But I didn't know if they were meeting, if your friends are meeting people in person at all or.
Yeah, no, I think they're meeting, they go to school, they're meeting people in person.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that's on a dating app.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Huh. So do you think there's any generational element to that? Because your friends are, 18 to, 20, like that kind of. That era of Gen Z.
I don't know. Maybe there's some. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. How many, what's the age of people on dating apps?
Oh, I mean, I think it's all over the place because, before your mom and I met, I mean, we didn't really have dating apps, right? We had dating websites. And so you had Craigslist, had a dating section, which was, I think, fairly disgusting. And then you had, and they got rid of it because they were concerned that they were going to violate human trafficking related stuff and scandalo, things of that nature. And then you had, let's see, what websites did you have? So you had OkCupid. Mm. I think different groups had different dating. There was, LGBT and whatever. Oh my God,
I remember farmersonly.com.
Farmersonly.com. That's right.
I can read a little jingle.
Oh yeah, do you?
Yeah.
Nice.
I was not going to sing it.
Well, okay.
That's afterward.
And then people, so really before true social media, you could meet people on I guess the early days of social media. So there was a website called Friendster. Mm. There was one called LiveJournal, which was an early blogging type of thing. There was MySpace. So I never went on a date because of MySpace. Maybe I did. I think maybe when I was about 21, something like that. Yeah. And then, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's as much as I know about online dating stuff. But we didn't really have apps and stuff like that because that wasn't on phones yet. But there was a Jewish dating website, very famous, called JDate. And it was the first actual Jewish dating site that I remember existing. Mm. And, this was long before, we got together. So I was a younger man and I went on there and I actually saw people I knew. And I remember being slightly weirded out by it. But I don't know why, for some reason I just found it weird when I saw people that I knew on this JDate website. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think I probably scammed a bunch of free trials and stuff like that because it's not something I was willing to pay for either. And I remember talking to someone who's actually a friend. And I remember messaging her and being like, hey, I'm not hitting you up. I'm mostly just I think you're too cool for this. Why are you on this thing? And she's like, you're Mr. Punk guy. What are you doing on JDate? And I remember talking to a few women and it's just this kind of sucks. This is boring. And they're all I was young and tattooed and in a band and kind of not serious about life or anything. And they're marriage, looking for marriage material, looking for, some nice Jewish orthodontist that, they could, not some guy who lives in his buddy's house, for pennies. Yeah, so that's about it. And then, ended up meeting Steph, and then that was kind of the end of that. No, and then so fast forward, I feel like I know a few single people, and they're all on like Hinge, Bumble, Tinder. Um, what else? There's one called J Swipe. Okay, I remember when this came out. So I was working for Modern Tribe. Shout out to moderntribe.com.
Why are you trying it
out? Because they're good people. They've been good to me.
No free promo.
I know, no free promo, but still. I appreciate what they've done, and they've given me discounts before on stuff. So, but I worked for the owner, the original owner. And I remember at the time, like trying to keep up with Jewish news because maybe it would be relevant to like what I was doing in YouTube stuff, and then what she was doing in, retail and all of that. And I remember J Swipe, and the whole thing was that like Tinder had come out. And I think it was Tinder that they originated the idea of like swiping on profiles instead of like you go to like swiping on images instead of like seeing a profile and actually reading about people. And so someone came up with like the Jewish version of it, right? And then I think the website Match.com started buying up all of the little indie dating websites, and then just kind of creating like they took their software, and it was like if you were like farmers.com, like whatever. And they kind of like created like a conglomerate of like dating sites. But then J Swipe happened. I never saw it. I don't know what it looked like. I don't know if it's around anymore. But yeah, so that's as much as I know about that.
Yeah, I remember I was in third grade.
Okay.
And I had a third grade teacher named Ms. Davis. And then it was like when that I don't think it was True People Meet, if that's a thing.
True People Meet?
I don't think that's a thing, though.
Okay.
But it was a website that was for Black people specifically.
Okay.
And so it was like, now that I think about it, it was very inappropriate. But I was a child.
Third grade. Oh my God.
But I was a child, and then like she was single, and that was like we knew that. So we was recommended to her that she went on that website. And like now me thinking about it since you brought the conversation, I was like, wow, children really say anything. Why was I on that lady business? That like why? Like, but yeah. And also, to say that, I know people feel like, Gen Z is like, all technology, but no, like, there were still websites and, things.
Right.
Gen Z didn't have, well, the older ones, I would include myself in that, didn't have like an iPhone, straight out the womb.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny. I remember reading an article years ago about a rabbinical student who he was putting together Shabbat dinners, and he wanted to he was gay, and he very specifically wanted to create like community for Jewish gay men. And so he was going on Grindr and inviting like Jewish guys to like go to dinner, like go to these Shabbat dinners. I'm like, well, that's one way of doing it. But okay, so I decided to look this up. So J-Date is still a thing. J-Swipe, which was the one I talked about earlier, still a thing. Now there's something called Tribe, which their whole claim is that like the other two apps are buggy. And like they're like, well, I don't know if they're buggy or not, but they're older. So maybe the user interface is older. Then there's something called Ringle. I've never heard of that. Jewish matchmaking. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. So great website, great TV show, Jewish Matchmaker. Big fan of that show. I will confess something. A lot of these like Jewish pop cultural TV shows that come out where it's like, oh my God, Rabbi, have you seen I don't watch them. I don't watch them because it reminds me too much of work. Like I got that going every day, right? Like there's like certain shows I've seen clips from, or like I've seen a few episodes. Jewish Matchmaker is the exception though. That was the one where I was like totally into it. Indian Matchmaker as well is fantastic. But one of the women from the TV show Jewish Matchmaker, I think her name was Danny. She now like is a matchmaker. Like, she got so popular from being on that show that now she does matchmaking. And I don't know if it's exclusively Jewish matchmaking or if it's matchmaking I think it's matchmaking for everybody. But she lives in, like, I think South Florida, and it's very much that vibe and, you know, hot young people and all that stuff. So good for her. But yeah, there's another one. I don't think that it actually is a Jewish thing, but it could be construed as one. Maybe it is. It's called Coffee Meets Bagel. And a friend of mine who's in her 50s told me about
that
this.
Sounds...
I know, right? I need a little bit on the nose. Like, come on. Yeah, but it's called Coffee Meets Bagel. So it's more of a like this idea, I think, of like geared towards like older adults, not like older, not like senior citizens, but just like people that don't want to sit there and just swipe profiles, right? And it's supposed to be more like, you know, you're just like meeting someone and you're going to go like have a coffee, like whatever, a little bit more grown, basically. Yeah. And then, oh my God, there's one called Jews, JEWZZ. That can't be good. I've never heard of that before. Ringle. It's another Jewish dating thing. I've never heard of that. Israel dating. I mean, yeah, sure. Like that's an entire country. Like, you know, Raya. Do you know about Raya?
Is that the one for celebrities?
Yes. Okay. I'm slightly offended that when I Google Jewish dating apps, that Raya is included, because that plays into some stereotypes. I'd just like to say, point of personal privilege.
Yeah, but so yeah, with dating apps, I'm gonna call, you know, shenanigans and
okay, what shenanigans?
And I'm gonna say there's like specifically like Tinder and stuff. Like,
okay,
the moment you made it that format of like you see a picture of the person and then like you made it, you know, you made it looks based. You didn't make it interest based, and you just made people like, oh, whether or not they take a cute photo or not.
Right.
So then they, you know, go into like, you know, catfishing, people pretending, you know, to be who they're not. And then like making other thing, you know, looks. Yes, people go towards looks, but like if that's the first thing, like you are going off of, then like how many relationships are you going to be in that are going to be happy?
Right.
So you're in there based on looks.
Right.
You can look, you can look, you know, 10 out of 10, you know, 10 out of 10, but then, you know, are your values there? Do y'all like to do the same thing?
Right.
Like, what's the communication like?
Right, exactly.
Do y'all want the same future?
Exactly.
So I think dating apps and, you know, Tinder especially has, you know, made it so that that's what people see and like not give things a chance.
Yeah.
Because they just want to be shallow.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, totally. And actually, this one person, their username is Classified Garlic. I love that. And what I love about this person is that they call themselves an Orthodox feminist, and yes, we exist. I like that. Well done. Maybe a Maharat person or someone like that. But anyway, so they said their dating advice for the original poster is it's a small sample size, so here are a few ideas. And to her credit, like, this is absolutely true. If you're a Jewish person and you want to date another Jewish person, like, it is a small sample size. Like, you are intentionally making a choice to really narrow down the pool. But her advice, I think, is fantastic. The first is tell your married women friends to keep an eye out. That is freaking great. And like, honestly,
but no, because like, you know how people be like, oh, I met this Jewish man at work, and I think I would be so like, and just because you're Jewish doesn't mean like you're gonna click and clack.
Totally fair, but they're gonna start with their friends, and people meet their partners often through their friends. And if your friends share similar values, and that's where it can be tricky. Like, you don't want Dave from accounting. You want like, oh, this is this girl who, you know, was in my bridal party. She comes from a cool family. But here's what she's into. That's that kind of relationship than like.
But I
Dave
will
from
say
accounting.
that, you know, you can be friends with some people that are not of, you know, great character, but since it's your friend, you overlook these things.
That's true. And, that's a fair point. That's a flaw.
You know,
yeah, that's a flaw in the system.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So maybe we go 50-50 on the first one. The second one is get involved in Moishe House or at Chabad Young Jewish Professionals. And I would also add to that, Hillel, a synagogue. Can we like go to synagogues and like meet people at synagogues? Come on, people. So any Jewish communal things federation, volunteer for like a Jewish nonprofit, go to stuff like that. So
you always have to watch out for people who, are part of organizations who have their nose in the air.
Well, you do, but like, look, I mean, I'm an example of, like your parents are an example of number two because we met because of a Jewish organization that we both volunteered at. So
yeah, but that was like at a wilderness tree or something.
Yeah, it was. It was at Limud. Shout out to Limud.
Exactly. That's not like corporate. I feel like when there's a corporate feel to it.
Yeah,
you have this like certain like I'm. Like I'm better than
and
like like if
go where again it goes back to the values thing though, and like I'm going to give the corporate types, which that's not my scene. I'm going to give the corporate types though the benefit of the doubt. If what you want more than anything is to like date and marry someone who's in your particular like suits world that you're into, then I can't force you to be a hippie. Like it's just not a thing.
Mean,
so like
you can also, watch how people treat other people.
Oh, sure. Without a doubt.
And it goes for anything, really.
Right.
Knowing who, people keep company with is a perfect indicator on character.
Yes, I agree. 100%. Yeah. I'm just, I think that in my younger years, I was judgmental of people who did well socioeconomically and like had certain careers they were into because that wasn't reflective of who I was. And I felt like kind of an outcast in the Jewish world that I was becoming part of because I, was a young, broke punk rocker. Like I didn't have any money. I wasn't like, I had an education, but it wasn't like, a master's degree or a PhD or law or medicine or whatever. So like,
but your day that like, but in this day, that doesn't matter. You can have a degree. Doesn't mean you have a high paying job.
Well, true.
You're doing well in the world.
But true.
I just feel like watch people. And when people show you who they are and they don't have, and that goes to like showing you personally or you seeing how they interact.
Look, you never know what's going to happen because the same day that I met your mom, I was in a class at Limud Atlanta. Hopefully someone from Limud Atlanta finds this. We might have to see if we can get this shared out. But I was in a session. And this is the time that she decided she was into me. Okay. So I was in this session. She happened to be there. I didn't know who she was, but we had like friends in common, but we just had never been in the same room together. Right. And there was this class called what was it called? Like, what do Jewish women want? And it was like supposed to be this thing almost like The View where you had like women of different ages. And so they had like the person in their 20s, the person in their 30s, blah, blah, blah. Right. And they were all kind of talking together. And it's kind of random that I'm just a dude like in a session called What Do Jewish Women Want? But I don't know. That'd be interesting. So I'm sitting there and they were talking about how hard it was to meet a Jewish guy. Like it's impossible. And like the older women were saying stuff like, oh, well, by the time if you're single and you're our age, like the men want a younger woman and blah, blah, blah. And it was just this very like, I think, looking back out on it, like if I was in that session now, I would understand that this was catharsis for these women. And like, this wasn't a lecture, right? Like I should have just sat there and been like, oh, well, this is good to know that this is how people feel. Instead, I did something that I regret that I did it, but I also feel like it attracted your mom to me. And so like, maybe it was worth doing. But I made a comment about older Jewish women. So this woman, I think, was over 55 and dating. And I said, look, I have friends that are 50, 55, older than that, Jewish guys. And they are the nicest guys. Like, but the thing is, they didn't prioritize career. They didn't prioritize, these things. And so they've been single their whole life. They've been doing other stuff. They've cared for, elderly family members. They've, maybe, been running small businesses, and they're okay. Like financially, they're fine, but they're not great, right? Or maybe they've had other hobbies or interests. And I made a point of saying some of them, like Judaism's a big deal to them. So they didn't, get the master's degree or the PhD. They didn't climb the corporate ladder. They didn't invest all their money because they just liked kind of being the guy who goes to synagogue on Saturday morning, and they enjoy the community, and they, care about Israel, and they care about all these other things. And like that social life was meaningful to them, and not all of these material trappings. And I said it in a far less, what's the word I'm looking for? Adult way than how I just said it. And they came at me. Because I just called them a bunch of elitists, right?
No, I think you called them bitter. And that's what you did. And it's like,
maybe.
I mean, when you're talking about like how men will leave you for a younger woman, like that clearly happened to you, and now you're projecting that onto other people.
Well, no one used the phrase leaving. That's not what they said. Let's be clear. Like that's not what they said.
Same difference.
Like, they were talking about people who were divorced and, were back on the market, so to speak. So,
yeah, clearly we were divorced.
No adultery was part of this
you're
story.
You're carrying baggage.
Just want to clarify.
But you're carrying baggage.
Sure,
you're carrying envy with you. You're carrying, you're damaged goods, trying to tell people how to,
woof.
Damaged
goods, yikes.
Yeah, you are. You're over here trying to preach to other people when you haven't, let the dust settle and know how you actually feel.
Right.
And said you're like throwing out these things that and that's not everybody.
Right.
And clearly, since you brought it up, it was everybody, including since they attacked you rather than wanting to have a adult mature conversation.
Well, to be fair, I didn't want to have an adult mature conversation because I wasn't adult and mature.
Yeah, but still, it's the attacking. When someone goes after you and attacks you, they felt like you made several points that hit them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, they're being challenged. Oh, you're saying, I'm the one that's, supposed to be controlling this. And I want a certain narrative to be pushed. Exactly. And that wasn't everyone.
Right. Well, so the cute story to come out of this is that I won't say names because I don't know if this person would feel comfortable with me talking about it. But there was a woman there who I knew, and I knew her husband a little bit better. And, I made this terrible comment, and I got, kind of thrown down a little bit. And there was, so this woman was probably in her, mid 50s or something like that. And she was sitting next to a woman who was about my age. So someone in her 20s. And the woman in her 20s turned to the older woman and kind of laughed when I said this. And the older woman turned to her and said, you know what, though? This is true for some people because my son, he's, a med student, but he's not into the bling and all of that stuff. He likes to hike, and he's into naturopathic stuff. And he's
he's going to med school,
Well, right, but he wanted to be he wanted to do integrative medicine, and he's really into supporting healthcare causes and stuff like that.
So bleeding hard, what you saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, he was a sweet guy. And he wasn't someone who was becoming a doctor
dead?
Well, no, I'm just saying
you think he was.
Yeah, I haven't seen this person in, years and years and years. So I don't know. But anyway, but he was a nice guy. His parents were wonderful people. And so she says this to this young woman, and she said, yeah, I'm not, I'm a younger woman. I don't want the stuff that we're kind of talking about, right? About how you doing financially? And
but you do want to know how you're doing financially.
Okay, but can I finish the freaking story? Because it's a cute story. Anyway, so I made this comment. The woman says this thing about her son. The woman, and then the younger woman says to her, yeah, I get it. I get what this guy is saying about the bling and whatever. And so she said, well, are you single? And she said, yeah. And she said, well, this is crazy, and I'm being a real pushy Jewish mother here, but do you want to know more about my son? And she was like, okay. And they're married. They got married. Yeah. So in Judaism, it says that if you make 3 marriages happen, you get to go to heaven. Well, olam haba, but whatever. So I'm on 1. I know for a fact I've made 1 marriage happen.
I mean,
by making a stupid, probably sexist comment. So I feel good about that.
What? But you made marriages happen. Like, you literally.
Well, right, but I mean, like, when you match people up, like officiating wedding is not the same thing. If you like match people up, and I feel like my stupid, immature attitude that helped to match them up. Hopefully, they're not divorced or something. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, but
after all that, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the goes show.
Anyway, so point number 3 that Classified Garlic has to say is set your apps to Jewish. I think this is a really good idea. Jewish dating apps, okay, sure. Just be on apps, but like just set your religion preference and call it a day. Like cast a bigger net.
You want to do.
Yeah, well, and that's what they're talking about. That's the point, right?
That's what you want to do. Yeah, I mean, even if you're on doing dating apps, like you can date someone, you can want to date someone who's Jewish, but like, doesn't like do like all the, because this is a religion that is very involved.
Yes, it's very involved.
And like, some people don't want to be very involved. They want to be involved enough.
I was having a conversation with my hairstylist about this today, actually.
Yeah.
I think she's coming to something, by the way. But anyway, yeah. But obviously it matters enough to this person to like, to want a Jewish dating app. Probably makes more sense to just have dating apps and then set your preferences accordingly. But I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm going to go back to point number 2 because I have, 2 points to make.
Okay, go for it.
Men, you cannot, there's like no way possible that you are over here doing this, that, and the third, and you're not finding anyone to be with. Like, it's just like impossible. Like, if you're going to synagogue, if you're, doing all this stuff on Saturday, if you're going to all these different things, you're doing all this volunteering, what are you doing? Not talking to anybody? Like, what happened to meet cutes? Like, doing like,
wait, what?
Meet cutes.
What's
like,
meet cutes?
Like, you just meet someone cutely.
Like you meet someone cute. Oh,
yeah, like you're just like in the library, and then like, they're like, oh, you're reading that book, and then like, starts a conversation, sparks a relationship, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of it too, like,
men need to take accountability, and like, older women need to not, tell younger women, lay all their baggage and like, they're divorced.
That would be true of anybody.
Yeah,
gender aside. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, go talk to your other divorcees, get, wine or scotch or whiskey, cry it out, and then like, get yourself better before you try to get other people advice.
Yeah, we're also assuming, by the way, that this person's problem is that they can't like that the problem is the Jewish dating apps. We don't know what they're doing on the Jewish dating apps. If you're like a weirdo, or you're someone who like gives off creepy vibe, or whatever,
or you just can't talk over apps.
Like, you can't talk over apps, or like maybe what you want's unreasonable, right? Maybe it is a 6'5" blue eyes trust fund type,
or like
man in finance type situation. Yeah. Thank you to our sponsors at Darshan Yeshiva for making this content possible. Darshan Yeshiva provides beginner-level online Jewish learning, including the very popular Conversion to Judaism program, with sponsoring rabbis and students all over the world. Start your Jewish journey any place, anywhere, and anytime with our conservative, reform, reconstructionist, Jewish renewal, humanistic, and post-denominational rabbi mentors. Become the Jew you always wanted to be with Darshan Yeshiva.